Loreheads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
Sorry for interrupting your sip there, Mark. Today
I don't know when we're going to start. It's all fucking chaos, apparently.
Today we're talking about Season 3 of the Star Guardians AU. Just Season 3. It only has one story, but it's really long, and Season 4 has so much shit that, you know, this might just be a little bit of a shorter one as we talk about this one long-ass story with lots of new Star Guardians.
And I've got champion bios. So,
Yeah, you do.
You know, that'll take half the time.
And children who aren't Star Guardians yet.
Although the champion bios kind of give spoilers away for the story, so we'll cover the story first.
Sure, yeah.
We don't want to spoil things for people.
Right? Well, it loses the narrative impact,
Yeah.
right? Like when you get spoiled on
I mean,
it
you've
all.
already talked about all of them a lot.
Nuh-uh.
Like, okay.
You know, you say that, I will say, but it's still like, some of these things, I don't know. We'll get into it. Some of these things, like, I don't know if I forgot. I don't think it's that. I think it's just that, like, I've heard it, but like then you read through it happening, and it
hits different, you know?
Makes more
More-
sense
it hits
in a
a
way,
lot.
too. Yeah.
that too, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Instead of getting
Hearing about
piecemeal.
someone destroying a city and reading them destroying the city is a different thing.
Fair.
Yeah, it's funny
Fair.
that, right?
Yeah.
So, quick synopsis for Season 3. Ari's old squad resurfaces, changed from the events that once tore them apart, and followed by a threat beyond anything the Star Guardians have ever faced. Can the group move past old grudges and save themselves from annihilation? Or will they simply be the next victims of the Twilight Star?
Oh, damn.
Imagine a world. where Zoe is-
Oh, damn, we did that voice so well.
the Rod Serling voice is really fun. You know what I forgot is that Zoe is referred to as the Twilight Star in this. I remember that from the season 2 stuff we talked about, like where they're in the playground or whatever. But I forgot that's like is a moniker for her. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Mm-hmm.
So the
All right, do you
story,
want to just dive?
what's it called?
Yeah, dive into the story.
Is it called The Twilight
Twin
Star?
Stars.
Twin Stars.
By
Yeah,
Capturesh.
Which is a name I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, I think this is
No.
the first, maybe last time I've heard it. Sorry if that's not true, Kat.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in season 4. I certainly do not know.
No.
So I guess we're gonna find out, right? Yeah, I mean, we can start running through it, and we can stop along the way when there's things to talk about, right?
Yes.
Or things to kind of call out.
Love
sure.
it.
So what's interesting about this one is that it opens up. So it's broken out into like kind of 3 parts. About I think it's 5 chapters per part, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
The way it was formatted on the wiki, by the way, was horrendous.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's like how about a couple extra line breaks between the. Is that what it was like for you, or
No, it
or
was
do you mean
just
like
one
having
big
to click
chunk
through the
of
different?
text. Oh, I was on the
Yeah, well-
wiki. I wish I was clicking through the chapters. I've done that before on the wiki, but for some reason, this short story link I found, and I think that was part of the reason why I struggled with the pacing of this a little bit, is literally it would be a block of text that I would scroll through for a long time before there was finally a break. And like even the dialogue was all mushed together in this one text.
Oh, really?
I should have found it elsewhere, but I was like trying to read it at parent group again. And I was like, well, this is where it is. It's supposed to be.
So there was no. I'm really interested in that just because they're like. So you didn't have to click to get to the next
No.
chapter or the next. Okay, well, yeah,
Interesting.
that would fuck things up. Yeah, because it's.
I don't think I realized that when you showed me where you were reading it.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, that was my experience.
because it's broken up, like I said, into 15 different individual pieces, right? Which I think
It's a
helps.
mobile
I mean,
thing. Wait, where did you say you read it?
I was on my phone.
I looked
It
at
was
it
on the
on
wiki.
mobile.
Okay, so that,
Yeah,
I wonder if that's... Did you use your phone too, Mark?
Maybe I just found it elsewhere. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at it ahead of time.
Oh yeah, so this is Twin Stars on the wiki.
Yeah,
I
I
can
have
hold-
done
I mean,
stories like this before, for sure.
You can't see it. You can see my crazy ass phone. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Like, I've done that
well,
before. I was
that
surprised this
sucks.
one looked like that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so like I'm saying, it's surprising because it starts with 2 new characters we haven't seen the Star Guardian lore before, Kaisa and Akali, who are. It opens with them being they're middle schoolers, I think, at the
Sounds
start,
like it.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
They say that, yeah. Where Akali, it's kind of from Akali's perspective that she is laying on the ground because she just stood up to some bullies, 5 kids who were like I don't know, torturing a puppy or something like that. It's
Wild.
they're being mean to a puppy.
They were being mean to a stray
Pug
dog.
Ma, very specifically, right? And she's kind of like, got my ass beat. And she hears this voice, like, this other girl, and it's Kaisa. Everybody, she recognizes the voice because Kaisa is the prim, proper, like goody two shoes, straight A student, the best of the best, who's just transferred to Valorant City Middle School. And I guess Kaisa was the one who who scared off those 5 bullies.
I
broke
don't
up
know
the fight,
how.
whatever it was. I don't know how either. I assumed more that they were like, okay, well, we're done kicking the shit out of a collie and this dog, respectively. So I guess we'll leave now.
We beat up the little girl and the dog. We're done.
Our work here is done.
Yeah, you better run. So, a little 6th grade Kaisa or whatever. Anyway. But Kaisa, picks a collie up and they're like, oh, well, maybe you do need a friend. They become friends, right? It's kind of the important part of it, right? Kaisa and Little the collie. And then we kind of flash forward. Very next chapter is like we flashed forward in time, right? To where I assume so, right? This is supposed to be a flash forward, right? Because they talk about how it's been years since the opening sequence. Where Akali and Kaisa are actually having a fight. And having a fight because Kaisa is stretching herself too thin. She's too selfless, right? She cares too much. That's her big character flaw, right? She cares
Big
too
weakness
much.
during interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's doing some petition for something. And I remember this petition thing, by the way. She's doing some petition in the park, and Akali's like, Kaisa, you're spreading yourself too thin. You're burning yourself out. And Kaisa's like, no, I'm just trying to help. Dad needs the help at the dog shelter, et cetera. But they kind of leave in sort of a huff. And Akali feels bad and eventually kind of ends up at a flower kiosk at a mall.
Real quick.
Can
I go back a second?
Yeah, you can stop me at any
do a
point.
single quote that actually 2 quotes. So there was one part when Kaisa had stood up to the bullies and said she wanted to be friends with Akali or whatever, and there was like an internal dialogue moment with Akali. They said, "Me? Why would you want to be friends with me? Akali wasn't good at, well, anything really. Unless you counted playing video games, which Akali did, of course, but Kaisa didn't know that." There's no way I can read this in my head other than the voice of like someone making fun of a weeb. Like, me? Why would you want to be friends with me?
I can't really put into words how much I hated the opening of this story so badly that I was reading it and I was like, what the fuck am I reading right now? That there's the exclamation points are in every sentence, like everything. They're just yelling everything at each other. When they're kids, when they're older, I don't know what it is.
Mark had to talk her down from a ledge. Like,
He really did. He's like,
it
it's
gets
gonna
better
get
when
better,
misfortune
don't worry.
comes
And
in.
it does.
I've never had Rebecca message the group chat we have. We're like commenting on a story like, what am I reading? Does it get better?
Probably the first time I did that, yeah.
And I think at some point I was like, I think she's past the part with Kaisa and Akali. And I kind of liked some of the stories. So I just have to kind of like throw up that, well, my standards are just a little lower when it comes to Star Guardian. I'll just own up to that fact. Right?
I do agree with the opening. The opening was really, really not good. And I don't know, it feels very different from the rest of it. Although honestly, anytime we go back to Akali's point of view, it is the much weaker part of the story. I think they do have some sweet moments later, and I'm interested in their characters, like, a lot, but this opening is rough, y'all. It really feels like mediocre like, when you click on a fanfic and you're like, this isn't great, but, like, it's my ship, so I'll read it. I read all the other ones.
There's not a lot of Kaikali or whatever floating around out there, so I certainly feel that. Even like later on in the stories, anytime anytime where Kaisa or Akali is kind of taking up a lot of time, I'm sort of not into it. I don't really like Kaisa's little like go get 'em speech or whatever it is she's doing kind of at the end.
I
don't really
either.
like Akali's. Maybe cripes almighty. Well, maybe I'll try and hold off until we've gone through the whole thing.
Right now we're complaining about the end.
Because there are parts of it that I do like. It's just kind of uneven, and what's hard about it, I think, is 2 things. I'll say before we continue. I think one is that they don't have a lot of space. I'll give them this. They don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of space. The fact that they've given so many words to Star Guardian already is like, it's a lot like we said, it's a big story for an AU, right? So they got a lot to do in a short amount of time. And on top of that, they're probably saddled with, and the other part is that, like, they're trying to establish Akali and Kaisa for the next season, which I will give them credit for. I appreciate them not just coming out of the blue, but rather being, like, kind of established here, and their conflict is already kind of crystallized in this season, and I assume will be developed and come to more of a fruition in the next season. But I'm a little trepidatious about that season, given my feelings about Akali and Kaisa right now. So we'll see what happens. Right?
I'm with you there. There's also so many characters that they're trying to work into this short story. I really, really feel bad for the author in that sense, because I'm writing a novel and there's more characters than I usually work with, and I'm like, this is impossible. How do you remember all these fucking people's names and shit?
For sure. Yeah. I like it. I kind of just wish maybe, like, more time, more space, more time probably certainly wouldn't hurt.
More than one story, I think, rather than trying to smush it all into this one. Yeah. Anyway.
The other thing that stuck out for me in the opening section was I had just forgotten the bit about Akali's home life. That was real sad.
Yeah.
After she made a new friend, it said, her mother's admonishments of useless and delinquent failed to hit their mark for once, banished by the word friend, blazing in Akali's heart like a newborn star.
Yeah, God.
It's like, damn, that's fucking dark.
Sounds like a real a-hole. Maybe her mom's got another little girl running around that she likes more. Kind of like real league lore.
I was going to say, I kind of like pulling from that league lore a little bit, honestly. Yeah. Right? That's kind of... I mean... At some point, I think a little bit later on, they talk about it being like, oh, when things were really bad at home, like where she doesn't go home. It was like, oh, it's a little more heavy, I guess, than just like, oh, you got kind of an asshole for a parent. You know what I mean? Like that you're not going home. I don't know. I like from this intro, if I'm gonna find a positive, I do like that the subtle suggestion of Kaisa's dad, Castidan, being the one running the void dog shelter or whatever, because Pugma's in there or whatever. So
I didn't even think of that. Just, like, I love that
slice of life Star Guardian, way of the house husband Cassidan kind of looks like. You know what I mean?
That's great.
I like any AU that finds some way to bring in Cassidan into the Kaisa part of it, which to this point I think is just 2, but still
thrilling.
Yeah. So anyway, so Akali ends up at this flower shop. She's getting forget-me-nots, which we're trying to grow, by the way. They're not growing right now. We'll see what happens. Buying some flowers to try and make up to Kaisa. And when that's happening, we kind of cut to Sarah, Fortune. So Miss Fortune is kind of our perspective character for most of this story, where she has kind of reluctantly agreed to go to the mall with Lux and the rest of her... Oh, cripes. What do we call them? New Kids on the Block and Jaded Misfits?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the two group names?
Oh, my God. I'm
Good
impressed.
Memory.
Yeah.
I listened to a little bit of the last Star Guardian episode.
You know what? Still, dedication. Still worth props.
Right. She's reluctantly agreed to go into the mall. And where we left her off was that she could not get a hold of Ari. And that is still kind of going on. She is still trying to push out of her mind that she doesn't know where Ari is or what's going on. And as they're kind of going around with Lulu and Jana and Soraka, etc., she's also like really struggling to not think about this traumatic event that's been hinted at in the past, right? Whatever's happened to her previous team. But before she knows it, some crazy shit starts happening, right? Like she kind of kicks into Star Guardian mode before she even realizes what's going on, and then we kind of snap back to Akali and see that like shit's just popping off. There's just like these horrible dark star things that are crashing down in the city and blowing it up. Like it's it's a horrible, like it's, I guess we only see what's happening at the mall. Spoiler, right? That's what we're gonna see that's happening to the city. But like horrible things are happening, and Akali sees these two people kind of show up when this is happening, who are Isaiah and Rakan. I think, did they even like say their names at one point? To like call each other like...
It was a real Jesse James moment.
They did feel a bit like Jesse and James. Just like with the cheesiness of it, you know?
And Rakan's holding a flower or some shit.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's the thing that I guess I liked about big chunks of the middle part of the story,
Yeah.
especially, is it feels like it's nailing that feeling of like, Rakan is still very like, well, you know what this means, like, oh, I thought we would at least get, like an applause or something when we showed up, right? Like, it's very, I can just see this shit in like that sort of Sailor Moon,
Yeah, for
80s,
sure.
90s kind of animation stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And for
so
the
I was
record,
liking
I
that.
almost exclusively play Star Guardian Rakan skin too. And like his skin lines very much just nail the whole fucking personality of Rakan with the bit of evil, but also still, just wise cracking bird folk.
Yeah, some anime villain going, oh yeah, right? Like it indulges in ways that I really enjoyed, and even in this story, I did. But yeah, so essentially, Zion, Rakan, and Sarah, like a confrontation is happening, and we're starting to get these hints of, we're seeing these little flashbacks of kind of what had happened, where essentially Rakan and Zaya, there was some conflict happening with Zoe. Rakan and Zaya were dead or dying, and Sarah, Misfortune, was pulled away by Ari to save her at the expense of those two, right? Now you're gonna have to tell me what like the exact literals of what happens in terms of sequence, right? Because I think what happens sort of next is they start fighting Zion and Rakan. Misfortune kind of commits to going to try and save Syndra because they don't know where Syndra is. She's not there with them. Mm-hmm. She's kind of doing her own thing. But before they can do that, they realize that they see Akali there kind of in the mix, and they sort of come to the realization they got to go save Akali. And Lux, kind of in taking a sort of like, this is a real moment for her, kind of stands up to Misfortune and is like, no, you need to go save Akali because like you're the one who can do it, and also these are your old teammates and you're kind of having like you're too close to it, I think is kind of what she says. Mm-hmm. And Misfortune reluctantly agrees, and so she's taking
the
Akali.
rugged police captain.
Yeah.
Damn it, Misfortune, you're too close to this.
Turn in your guardian. Give me your gun and your other gun, right? Like, you're familiar and you're
They're alive,
familiar.
though.
Yeah.
Don't take us from mommy.
Right? I like them incorporating the familiars even more in this. Like, she even talks to her guns, or familiars, I should say, before she starts popping off. But she starts taking Akali away, and Akali is being really frustrating, and then Akali is like accusing Misfortune of being, she thinks Misfortune might be bad. She doesn't know what's going on. She just assumes everyone's like a threat potentially, and is kind of accusing Misfortune of like being bad, like, oh, if you were a good guy, you wouldn't leave your friends to die like that other one said, etc., etc. And this is the point where they kind of realize that what is happening here is happening large scale across the city, and there are, I mean, it's very severe devastation. Whole buildings are being collapsed, etc. They're not fucking around.
Yeah, you're not really thinking
It's not
about
the
how many
bubbles from the
people
other story.
probably died here. Like they mentioned at the very end that they're going around looking for survivors, and I'm like, this is like a day that they will mourn forever. Like,
yeah, I can see where they're going. I can see where they're going with like things like this, and some of the stuff they've established earlier about like this sort of. I just have through osmosis from what you've told me, John. There's sort of a weird relationship with the first star where it's like it does give them powers, and it's seemingly at the benefit of other people, but it also has some sort of weird, like there's a weird power imbalance, and they're like almost being used, like all this stuff that's like hinting towards a more like a little bit more mature, a little more darker stuff that's going on. I'm open to it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And I am excited for that direction that they do kind of seem to be moving more towards with season 3 and 4.
Yeah. We'll see how they land it. We'll see how they land it in season 4. Don't spoil me. We'll see what happens. This is also like, so Misfortune is trying to get Akali to a safe place. And this is where we kind of get the full flashback of what happens, because there's kind of a mirroring of Akali seeing someone being crushed by a building and trying to save them, and Misfortune kind of has to stop her to save Akali herself, and it is like a direct mirror of the interaction with Misfortune, right, where she was trying to save Zion Rakan, and is pulled away to save her, right, by Ari, and Akali sort of is like, you got to help my friend. I was going to go get my friend, and that's sort of what gets Miss Fortune, who through this has also been trying to kind of be like, they're not my friends. It's just a mission. They're just a mission. But Akali is like, my friend Kaisa, you got to go save her. That's what I was trying to get to. She was in the park, but then some shit happened, and and Miss Fortune's like, okay, I'll see if I can save her. And so she goes to the park, and then we find Syndra. There's Syndra, and she's kind of squared off against Zoe. Zoe's finally showed up onto the scene. And it's kind of note that like none of the rest of the team is around. Miss Fortune doesn't know where they are, and Syndra is squared off against Zoe, but they're kind of like a standoff type situation. Nothing's actually happening, and they so we don't quite know what's going on. And even when Miss Fortune shows up, Syndra is not like, "Oh, Sarah, it's great to see you," or anything like that. She's just like, "You shouldn't be here. You should not be here for your own safety. You need to get out of here," etc. Zaya and Rakan show up, but shortly after they do, the rest of the team shows up. All of Miss Fortune's concerns about what happened to my team. Did it happen again? Did they get smushed? It's fine. Don't worry about it. They're all here. And they start their big
smushed.
Did they get
There's a lot of
smushed?
smushing going on.
I say she literally saw someone get smushed mere chapters ago. Yeah. But they're all fine. Now, eventually, the whole time Zoe is also kind of like preying on Zaya's anger at Miss Fortune, and using it to empower herself, and kind of harping on, oh yeah, I know that Rakan was dead, but was Zaya dead? Et cetera, et cetera. And eventually Miss Fortune is catches a paddle star in the back, and it really fucks her up. And Zaya's really pressing on her, like, you should have done this. Why didn't you do that? Blah blah blah. She's really digging into it, as I recall. Now you gotta help me with the exact sequence of events here, because I know that so eventually Ari does show up.
This is when Ari shows up. Yeah,
Ari finally shows up on the scene, and Miss Fortune can't believe it, but there is Nico there also. Now Nico was a member of her team before, who was also expected to have died. I'm sure they mentioned her beforehand that, like, yeah, Zaya was dead, Nico was dead, or Rakan was dead, etc. But she's there, and Miss Fortune can't believe it, but she's there, and she's, as much as that. So when she's injured, right? Another thing they kind of really dig into is that, like, when she's injured, it's not just a physical injury, but that there is some sort of like darkness that is enveloping her. Right? This is it's very Kingdom Hearts in a way that I kind of liked. What can I say? I don't know. It's a little part of me that likes Kingdom Hearts in a very quiet way, but like she's being overcome by like grief and sadness, etc. But eventually Kaisa, who is there, kind of stands up and is like, Miss Fortune, you gotta believe in yourself, you gotta believe in your friends,
if you believe.
Clap if you believe in fairies, right? And it's that spark of stuff that kind of pulls her back from the edge, and Ari's showing up, and Nico, and she's kind of like reinvigorated, and I don't know, and then Zoe starts having a this is where it kind of gets a little jumbled in terms of the sequence of events. You gotta help me out, because Zoe starts throwing a tantrum, because Miss Fortune is being pulled away from being corrupted, and they kind of are at the point where it's like, okay, she's throwing a tantrum, and eventually Zoe starts like going mega mode, like she starts like getting bigger and physically bigger and larger. And they're like, okay, well, while she's doing this, she's not going to attack. So we're kind of safe now, but we got to figure out a plan for what happens when she does stop growing. And this is also where we kind of see that Rakan is sort of like going through something. There's some sort of internal conflict that is happening, and eventually comes to a conclusion. We don't quite know what it is, but as Zaya and Miss Fortune are having their interactions, trying to come to grips with what has happened between them, eventually Rakan is like talking to Zaya. He like pulls her aside at one point, and he says something to her that sort of like signals Ari, and we kind of like, we don't quite know what's still happening, because we're just sort of seeing it from outsiders' perspectives.
You just see her little fox ears start twitching.
Pick it up.
And she nods very almost imperceptibly, but like something has happened with Rakan, and Zaya, like he's swaying Zaya, right? And Zoe's super big, and they start fighting Zoe, and Akali and Kaisa are watching, and Akali and Kaisa are like just trying to see what's going to happen, and they kind of reach this point of, Rakan and Zaya have switched sides. Rakan has like overcome the corruption within himself to that they're all going to fight back. But then while they're fighting, right, Zaya is further corrupted, or even just maybe is it just using her powers that like corrupts her? I don't quite remember what the inciting incident is.
I think it was like they Zoe kind of just fucking picked her up and chucked her and like super corrupted her.
Yeah, like the injuries, like whatever corruption she kind of is already dealing with is overcoming her. And this is where Rakan does the big sacrifice. He grabs a hold of her and is like, I know it sucks and I know you don't want me to, but I gotta save you. And he fully throws himself into the mix. He sucks out all that corruption and he takes it on himself. And they do this big, ultra fucking mega move where everyone's shooting all their abilities. A giant Lulu
throws
is headbutting Zoe, and she fucking fastball specials his ass, like, right? And he's flying up there, and there's like an Ari Foxfire empowering a Lux ult, and he shoots like through Zoe. They kind of describe him as the arrow that pierces her, and she's seemingly gone, right?
Yeah.
They've
one of
seemingly
those, like,
won.
She could defeat the Star Guardians, but could she defeat the Star Guardians when one of them was enhanced with her own power?
Yeah. And at the end of it all, so then that happens, and they kind of collect themselves. They can't even really kind of come to grips with what's happened, and we kind of cut back to Akali and Kaisa, who are sort of, they're setting up the conflict between these two, which is that Kaisa sees what has happened and is like, wow, they were friends, and that is what got them through it, and they won. And Akali is of the opinion of like, wow, they had all these things working for them. They had so much love for each other, and look at Zaya. Does that look like winning to you, right? Like how broken she is, that like he was lost, right? So like that's what's going to break those two up in that way. And then we see that kind of in the aftermath, Zaya is committed to finding Rakan. She's convinced he's still not dead, and they're gonna the Star Guardians are gonna help her, and Misfortune and Ari also have kind of reach a point of where Misfortune is upset that Ari made all these decisions and did all these things that caused so much pain for her and her friends, and Ari kind of finally breaks and is like, there's a decision I had to make. I was the leader. I made the hard call. I rolled the hard 6 because at the end of the day, it's like, in that situation, you were the only one left. You were the only one who I knew like I could keep alive, and I didn't want to lose you.
Yeah, so. I like how she mentions too that it was like she had an inkling idea that Nico might be alive, and she like did not want to get Misfortune's hopes up at all. Like, why would I do that to you so you would like lose her again if it's not true?
Yeah. And then they kind of go off, I guess, into the sunset with the Akali and Kaisa thing brewing. The other thing, I guess, also a big thing is that the concept of the Star Guardians is kind of, they're out now. Like, they're supposed to be a big secret. Now everyone knows because there's a giant fucking thing that happened. So that's something so for future conflicts, Kaisa Akali is a big one that's kind of being developed here. That and them dealing with that, I guess, and the search for Rakan, to me, were kind of the big three that they sort of left with. Does that seem like kind of what y'all were feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing too to mention, we mentioned that like when Misfortune first gets to the field and it's just kind of Zoe and Syndra fighting. One thing that's
staring at each other.
Worth mentioning too is that Misfortune realizes that the two of them have been fighting each other this entire time, and Syndra is unscathed. not a mark on her.
That's true.
There's like a moment there of like, what the fuck? Like, how strong is this girl?
Yeah,
which is a little teaser for later Syndra.
Yeah,
and I was gonna say, if you go back to like the previous like season 1, season 2 stuff where Janna and Syndra were having weird interactions, and we know Janna is older and has some sort of like some knowledge that most Star Guardians are not privy to. It's there are like some longer term things kind of running through line, and also like you said, like Syndra. She's not in really most of it. I don't even really remember her helping that much.
No, I think she's just in that part. And then she
shows
dips, I guess. Oh, did she? I
Can't
don't
do-
remember
she
her
Says
at
at
the
the end
end.
to be like, I'll go chase and make sure that Zoe doesn't show up on other planets.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She was like,
Yeah,
I'm sitting
this
this
is-
one out, y'all. I don't know. I'm tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just to touch on this real quick to not get anyone's hopes up.
Sure.
A lot of these conflicts will end up
Not
showing
show
up
up
again,
again.
right? Like, so Akali, Kaisa, yeah, that'll show up in season 4.
Oh, okay.
The whole thing with Zaya looking for Rakan, that'll show up too. The whole thing with Misfortune and the rest of the Star Guardians be like, we're gonna help too. Absolutely not. She does that shit on her own the
The
majority of
skins
the
are
time.
made. We don't need no more Ari Star Guardian skins.
That's kind of what it felt like, because Lux's team had kind of fallen away too. I mean, Lulu gets mentioned quite a bit, and like Ezreal has a couple lines here and there, but for the most part, they were like, they're here because they're in the story.
Yeah.
And legally,
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, you know what? Ezreal and Jinx
they
got
had a couple
along a little
bonding
bit
moments.
by the end of the moment.
Yeah. I also really liked
Yeah.
how Janna and Soraka are besties, and they're just like these weird, these just two
like
weird,
these
polite ladies. I like how they were. There's one part in the beginning where they were like, I don't know, they were getting, I don't know, ice cream or something. They were at a market, and they kept going like, oh, after you. Oh, no, please, after you. No, after you. And like, neither of them would go first.
And they'd been there for like 10 minutes. And there was just a line behind them.
Oh, yeah, people were getting mad behind them.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Even
Yeah.
there's a bit I think where Soraka shows up on the scene during the fight, and someone does something, and Soraka's like, "Oh, that was very well done."
Oh, that was great.
like-
She's like your grandma. They're like your grandmas. I love that.
Yeah, I like a couple grandmas in a big anime action sequence, right? You know, it's like
Absolutely. I also
I
did
like
how
that. I like,
Lulu's fighting style was
Right.
just throwing picks at people over and over again. Just chucking
and even
picks.
Rakan is like, "Stop throwing this
He's
thing at
like,
people,"
"Stop
or whatever it is he
it."
says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Lulu's fun. I like the bit in terms of, so broadly, like I said, a lot of the middle part of this and like the kind of culminating action sequence, I kind of liked Rakan's sacrifice. It all kind of hit for me. I don't know what it is. Little moments. I really like that. There's a bit where they're like, okay, you gotta clear a path, and Ezreal like jumps in, and she's like, I thought he was gonna shoot something or throw some orb, but he just like
tackled
tackled
Rakan.
Rakan. I was like, oh, that's a little clever. Right? It's kind of fun, right?
They were funny.
kinda
I like
nice.
that they're just trying to like out peacock each other.
Right? It's like there can only be one leading man. Yeah, and it's me.
I mean, Rakan in general is pretty fun. He really hits that vibe, like we were talking about earlier, where he's like, you know, there's all this heavy shit, but he's still got like that sort of, there's a lightness to him that helps kind of keep things like not being too heavy. It's fun, but it's not too melodramatic
too
in
fun.
a way. Not too fun. We don't want to be too fun, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They do a good
don't
job.
know.
So like I feel like when evil Zaya is evil, it sounds like Zaya, but just like a little angrier.
Yeah,
Evil Rakan just like really dials up the sass.
he does.
yeah, right.
Well, I guess he's still saying things that he would be saying to the villains, right? Yeah. I feel like, I liked that they still had their personality so well. It's hard to write a comedic villain sometimes. Yeah, so that was fun. I always like them too.
Yeah, and
I could
and making them overly dramatic, great way to do it.
No, it's good. I mean, I was gonna say I could be wrong with Rakan, but I think, is there also not sort of the implication that he wasn't ever fully
Really
corrupted? He
corrupted?
was kind of
I don't
He was
know.
just kind of there to help save Zaya in the first place. I don't
You
know.
kind of get that in the cinematic. That's kind of
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay,
'cause
yeah.
I did watch that a couple times.
Yeah,
Yo,
that makes
cinematic
sense
is
to me.
dope.
But she resurrected him, Zoe? But she couldn't
Right.
corrupt him, kind of thing?
He's like kind of corrupted, but like not fully corrupted.
More as more as a function of like helping Zaya, right? Like the man simps to oblivion, right? Like I can't. Like, no, they're in love. It's romantic love, people. It's genuine fucking like it's
Wow, what a simp.
I don't know if there's like the
Something a simp would
right.
say.
No, I hate that shit because like maybe it was the mood I was in. Maybe it was like because I could hear my kids screaming over the monitor during bedtime while I was reading it. I don't know what it was, but something about the Rakan sacrifice scene kind of like worked for me. It emotionally landed for me. I don't know why that is.
Mark, are you trying to tell us you cried during the Star Guardian story?
I welled up a little bit. I got a little misty eyed. My man Rakan throwing himself in the mix. I think it's like because like he's really good choice for that because he is so bombastic and like he puts on that brave face, right? You know, like even in some of his lines I thought were nice, like what does he says? Like, I don't know, Prince gotta save the princess. I'm sorry, but it's the rules. I know you like tearing up rules, but I gotta do this. I don't know. It just kind of worked. I think what I liked also is that with Zaya is that like she's really angry, but I did like that the way it kind of breaks down to where it's like there's a bit where she's being very accusatory towards Misfortune, and I think it says like, you know, like Sarah like didn't know if Zaya even realized she was crying at that point, right? We're like, and I was like, I kind of like that. That sort of that also sort of worked for me a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't all just Zoe's corruption making her feel this way. I can't imagine what it would be like when you just like the love of your life just died, and then you're laying there dying, and then your friends run away from you. Like that's pretty fucking harsh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like that because it's like a bit earlier, right, where Zoe is sitting there and she's kind of toying with the situation while Zaya and Misfortune are fighting, and she's sort of like, I don't remember the exact one. She's like, okay. Misfortune is putting up a defense of like, well, Rakan was dead and Nika was dead, but Zoe keeps pressing on the question of like, okay, but what about Zaya? You know, but what about Zaya, right? And it's like, oh. Also, Zoe, lots of fun in this one. I like her as a real maniacal evil monster. It really works.
Yeah, I do like how she's still childish too. And it's like, hang on, she's throwing a tantrum. Everybody pause.
Ask her if she wants a hug. Quick, let her. Do you want to go to your room?
Take a deep breath with me.
Take a deep breath.
Poppy gets so mad when I ask her to take a deep breath with me. It's really funny.
Yeah, they know about that shit. They know because it's like I want to keep feeling this one.
One time I was just trying to take a deep breath, and she like screamed and pointed at me, and I was like, "This is my deep breath.
You can't take that away from me.
This is I'm telling you to take a deep breath. I also need one."
Goose Brahma. Serenity now. Fuck me.
Yeah, I think.
So yeah, I like the Zoe stuff. Oh, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say too. I think, especially going into season 4, which I'm, excited about now. But there were so many moments that would not have hit had we not gone read Twin Stars and gone through season 3.
Mm-hmm.
There was like. There's a lot of really emotional, especially in the cinematics, like, because there's a lot of cinematics for season 4.
Yeah, were there just more Star Guardian skins for season 4, or
there were?
There
were a lot more because there were 2 separate in-client events, and each in-client event had its own line of Star Guardian skins. Because this was kind of the introduction to Star Guardian in Wild Rift. Which is why we get 2 separate skin
okay,
lines.
that makes sense, and why they went a little more ham for it. Okay.
But yeah, there was not only do we get like I think 2 or 3, we get like 2 I think regular length cinematics. We get 1 music video cinematic, and then we get like 5 or 6 little mini vlogs.
Oh, I forgot about the mini vlogs.
And like,
yes.
Yeah, they really hit. And some, I think some moments in the comics too are particularly heartbreaking. Seeing Rakan a little bit darker.
You have
I'm open to it.
Tell us the order that we should do it in.
Yeah, you have to help us on that one.
Also, if you're curious about the big conflict about like the Star Guardians have been revealed, what does this mean for the world? Don't worry about it. They're never gonna bring it up again.
They don't give a fuck. Okay, that's fine.
I honestly couldn't give a fuck. To be honest with you,
I forgot about that whole situation. To be honest,
I'm not that interested in it. Honestly, it's like what's more interesting is this like really high drama and like it really touches on the part of me that was like I said, there was like 12 or whatever and playing Kingdom Hearts and being genuinely into it in a completely unironic way.
Yeah, me at that age watching Sailor Moon and being genuinely into it. Thinking no one could love like Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon could love.
I mean, in prep for this, I watched the first 2 episodes of Cardcaptor Sakura or whatever, right? I loved
that show. I also had a passionate love for that one.
I see it mentioned a lot, and this is not related to the thing at all, but fuck it. was kind of cool. Like some of the stuff that like. Some of those sequences with like the cards, like with when she's capturing Fly and Shadow or whatever at the very start or whatever, it's kind of cool. And you know what? I had a shit day and like,
oh yeah, it's nice and light.
I can see the appeal of like sitting down, like watching this fourth grader or whatever, just like chill out and capture a weird shadow monster. It's kind of chill.
It's not as long as like Sailor Moon or anything either. Although I don't remember. Maybe America also didn't get as many of the episodes, and I could be confusing it for the manga because I did actually read the manga for that one.
Oh, look at you! You're doing the legwork.
I couldn't tell you much about it, to be honest. It's been a very long time. I was in high school, and we don't need to talk about how long ago that was. But
it's like
feels like only yesterday.
Yeah, right. No, it doesn't actually. It feels like an eternity ago.
No,
I'm so glad.
Yeah, and you can, if you couldn't tell from the way I was describing this sort of like final climax sequence, I'm a real sucker for like a really big like third act climax. You know, like this also worked for me where like I said, they're doing their all out awesome anime attack with Rakan as like the arrow. It's like just like it was all working for me in this through these sequence. I think also the description of the corruption affecting Zaya is kind of visceral. They talk about how like at one point it's like Miss Fortune has to keep herself from vomiting.
She was like crawling up to Zaya and she's like, oh god, I'm gonna yards.
Oh, fuck. I'm gonna crawl away.
Weird, yucky feathers, like they're coming out of her skin, like these black feathers are like growing out of her.
And they're like undulating feathers.
Yeah.
Anything that's undulating. Using that word is an instant
it's a good
like
body horror word.
Squick. Yeah.
Squick. Wow. Been a while.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's an anime mode now.
It's all old school today, right? We're all in the past.
Let me go find my live journal.
I kind of like it, but that's sort of what I'm kind of liking about some of the Star Guardian stuff is it's kind of indulging in that way where it's like, if you really come at it with a more I said this in our group chat and I said it earlier in this podcast, but like I come at it with a little bit more of like lower standards might be a little like severe to say, but it's just like I'm willing to treat it a little more lightly. Like if this was mainline lore, you know, I know we rip on Lilia, or I did a lot for being kind of like Kingdom Hearts, and I think that holds. But for this, it's like the point to a degree is to indulge in some of these tropes, you know, like the power of friendship overcoming evil and shit like that. You know, it's like
it's a bit. It's supposed to be a bit cringe, and I do feel bad for coming for the opening so hard. But I felt like the opening was a touch too cringe for me, and then we backtracked a little bit.
The opening felt more like I kind of mentioned, like it felt like it was
making fun of
the trope as opposed to indulging in it.
That's a really good way to describe it, actually.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, so this is what I was going to complain about more is that like it's all also very like heavy-handed in that like, or ham-fisted is the word I'm looking for. It's very ham-fisted in that setting up even a Kali and Kaisa's conflict to a degree to me feels a bit like, I understand that this could be a conflict, but the way you've written it feels very much as though this is like, I understand it from the writing perspective, but from the reader's perspective, I don't buy into the authenticity of these two characters being conflicted in that way. Does that make sense? That,
no,
I know what you want to happen, but
I agree. It doesn't feel as important, I guess, almost, or it doesn't. I don't know how to describe this. It doesn't feel as real. It feels kind of thin and papery, I guess. I don't know. They even make like a pact, like, hey, swear we'll never, I don't know, put something for, I don't know what it even is. Is like they make some kind of pact with their forget-me-not bracelets or whatever. Oh god, they're called forget-me-nots. They're gonna forget each other, aren't they? Spoils!
Right? If they literally did, I would be more interested. If there was some sort of weird memory thing where it's some...
But only one of them forgot. That would be the heartbreaking one, right?
That's kind of sad. That's also very Kingdom Hearts funny.
That's
funny
true.
enough.
Do we know how old they are compared to the rest of the Star Guardians? Because they start in middle school, and then they made them sound like really young, but I know they weren't supposed to be.
I think they're supposed to be a few years before high school.
But they were in middle school, and then we had a few years that passed.
Maybe a year before high school.
Okay.
I don't think they're in high school yet, because I'm pretty sure...
I mean, they describe when they were...
Season 4, they are in high school, and they're not necessarily... I don't even think they're seniors in high school.
Okay. Yeah, when they described... Because
fourth years.
When Miss Fortune first sees Akali in the fight, she doesn't know her name or anything. She's like, oh, there's this little kid here. And they look scared. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be Zoe. That must be Zoe, this little kid. And then she said it was Akali. And I was like, Akali is not a little kid. Like, she's a child still, I assume. But I don't know. They seem so young.
I think from Akali's perspective, it's this. I wish I had the text. She says that like Miss Fortune is a little older, or like a kind of older. So like you said, very late middle school, like a freshman in high school, maybe, but certainly not
like 13,
not anything
14,
you would describe
maybe.
as a kid. Maybe middle school you might describe as a kid if it'd been.
It depends. Everyone looks so different.
You could be like,
I was
That's
gonna say
true.
maybe
a small high schooler.
Oh, I was gonna say
I
maybe
had some
she's like
small
you.
kids in my.
Maybe Miss Fortune's like you, John, where you cannot. No, not about short people. You cannot tell children's ages.
Oh no,
you're really bad at that. Now that you have a kid, it's a
man.
little bit better. But
Not
there were
even
times when
really.
he was like, I don't know. I'm like, how old are they? He's like, I don't know, 3, 6. I'm not sure.
Maybe
And I'm like,
12?
Jesus.
Hey, when you get into that, once you get past like 8, I think. I
they
feel
really
like
start
it
to
gets
mix
kinda
together.
hard.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's when they take their ages the most seriously too. Like, I am not 8. I am
Do I look like
8
a
and
kid?
half.
Yeah. I'll be 9 tomorrow. Anyway.
There's one thing I think we should mention too, because this is also going to tie into season 4. One of the very last things in the interactions with Akali and Kaisa are after they have their little interaction where Kaisa's like, wow, the power of friendship won, and Kaisa's like, you call this winning? Like, it says specifically. Oh yeah, and Akali's like, you call this winning?
Akali's the pessimistic one. That's
yes.
all you need to know.
It mentions that like a little tendril of darkness opens up in her heart.
Yeah.
Yes. You're right. I was wondering if that was poetic or realistic, like how did they mean that?
Oh,
Stay
I
tuned.
absolutely knew. I absolutely knew it was literal, like some sort of
Zoe's
literal
little-
darkness.
Oh
Yeah.
no, Akali's gonna go to the dark side. Or whatever they call
Even,
it in this
like,
world.
Right. What do they call it?
The Twilight side.
Oh, the Twilight side?
Yeah.
Not the
That's
Twilight
correct.
Zone. That's copyright.
Now there are like 2 cinematics tied to this. One real cinematic, called Light and Shadow, which kind of takes place in between the story where Zoe attacks all of them with bubbles on the playground and the beginning of this.
With bubbles. So between Zoe's bubble attack and then earth-shattering, city-destroying attack.
Yeah, between that, we get a little cinematic called Light and Shadow, where Nico is essentially trying to fight her way through Zaya, Rakan, and Zoe to get free from Zoe's prison that she seems stuck in. It's not going great. Kind of seems like she has a moment there, but then it turns out that Zoe's just way too powerful and kind of, twists reality and brings her right back to the prison she started in. And just when things are looking hopeless, Ari shows up to save the day. It was a very Lord of the Flies type moment when she broke through the door. The kind of look on Zion Rakan's face of just like, oh no, we got caught being bad.
Now, did you mean Lord of
Interesting.
Flies?
Yes.
Okay. I've never read Lord of the Flies.
I've never read it either. I know the broad
Oh,
concept.
well, spoiler alert for the ending, I guess.
I
assume,
I wouldn't even be
people
able to
show up
connect
and they
it.
kind of realize that they're like
Adults show up and they're like, oh, They all start
damn.
breaking down and crying. It's like, oh, we fucked up.
Interesting. I've not watched this since it like originally came out. I'll be honest with you. I like it way more, A, knowing what's happening, and B, just like watching it again, because like the music is great. I really love that song.
Yeah.
And the visuals are really striking. I think the place that they're, the weird interdimensional prison that they're in with this weird crying angel statue that is like caught in this thing. Is there significance to that statue? Because it's a very interesting thing to have them sort of fighting around. You know what I mean?
Right? I don't, not that I know of, but like, I'll have to pay attention more.
Yeah. There's a lot of little details in here that are really nice.
It's great, yeah. I think until the season 4 music video is definitely my favorite Star Guardian cinematic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably give it to Everything Goes On, just music alone. But I like Porter Robinson a lot. But for this one, there's a lot of it's still music's still very good. Like I said, the details in terms of like, I don't know. There's these little moments where like I love the little moment where like Nico has cloned herself like Zaya and Rakan guards the wrong one. That's man, he really fucked up.
Right.
For somebody whose whole shtick, right? Yeah.
I'd be so mad if you fell for some clone.
Could you? Yeah.
If I fell for, you'd be mad at me for falling for some clone?
Yeah.
Nico's very good.
She's a strong tomato, man. Let me tell you. Do you know? Is the implication that this is what's been going on since, like, Ari and Miss Fortune fucked off? Like, while they were having their pajama party, was Nico just constantly having to fight Rakan and Zaya in this weird hell?
Yeah, I don't know. Because, like,
I don't know either, right? Like,
it definitely kind of seems that way, right? Like, this is just some prison that they've all been playing out the same battle in over and over again for a while. It's a very Zoe thing to do.
I was gonna say it's very on brand for Zoe. So I kind of hope that it is to get. I know it's very like sad for Nico. All of them, really. It's very sad for all of them. But like,
Mark likes the sadness. It's good. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's really good for Zoe, right? Even the way that Zoe acts, kind of as she's written in that story, she likes to play with her food, right? You know, so it makes a lot of sense she would do this. You know what else is neat about that video is also all the different animation styles. That was really neat to see the way they would kind of swap between the 3D animation to like the more drawn animation is
the full K, and we get to see that, like, what is that chaos version of Zoe look like a little bit, because it is kind of hard to envision when they describe like, oh, she's growing and she's more chaos than matter at this point. Like, the fuck does that mean? But like this cinematic kind of, you get a little glimpse of kind of what that is. There is one line that struck me in the story that I thought was had a nice visceralness to it, where they talk about how her limbs will kind of extend and then pop back, and they compare it to like a ball jointed doll's limbs. Like if you kind of pull them too far, they kind of snap back. It's like, okay, I can kind of picture this happening.
Gross.
Very, it is very gross, as Nico says.
You're right. I forgot about that.
They call things gross a couple times in that story, actually. Yeah, it's cool. I like watching it.
The other one was called Scattered Stars. So this was the in-game skin trailer, which has like voice lines that they use their actual voice lines to just kind of tell a little narrative throughout the cinematic. This is mostly important because it has the song Scattered Stars playing in the background, which will tie into my one fun fact later. So,
Ooh. I'm so excited.
Now, y'all want to learn about the team?
I guess I feel like we just did.
Me with it.
Well, I didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, but what's their blood type?
Yeah, what's their blood type? You don't know their fucking blood
Shit,
type.
fuck.
We got Rakan.
I can't wait to hate on this again. Okay.
Even after falling and becoming host to Zoe's corruption, Rakan's love for Zaya persisted. Across the universe, he joined her in her quest for vengeance, all the while formulating a plan to purify her heart.
Okay.
Doing so cost him his own sanity, and he fell deeper into a swirling dimension of chaos and destruction.
Okay, so he's a little corrupted.
Desperate and heartbroken, Zaya longs to bring Rakan back to the light. Rakan has other plans, namely, finding a good hairstylist and practicing his evil villain monologues. Burns this good can't be improvised. Magic medium, Riku. Whenever Rakan needs to primp his hair before battle, he can trust Riku to hold the mirror in its talons. Of course, that's only if this arrogant ally stops long enough to tear its eyes from its own reflection. When your feathered friend looks that good, who can blame it? Blood type? A. Hobby? Hair/skincare regimes.
Okay.
Food? Chocolate galaxy bars.
Oh, that does sound good.
Subject? Drama.
Okay, this one's perfect.
I like that.
I like this one. Mm-hmm.
Then we got Zaya. Abandoned by her captain and teammates, Zaya spent years in darkness. She sought revenge, yet deep down she only wanted an explanation, an answer as to why Ari left Rakan and her to die. Zaya pursued her former friends across the galaxy until, during the Battle of the Twilight Star, Rakan sacrificed his own light to purge the darkness in Zaya's soul. Now, a Star Guardian once more, Zaya searches the night skies for her love. She hopes to return the favor and bring him back to the light, but to do so, she must battle the darkness that still rages inside. Zaya's love is her guiding force, though she'd never admit to something so horribly sentimental. Magical medium? Saki! Sentimentality was never Zaya's strong suit. She prefers to speak with actions rather than words. If Saki could speak, in a language understood by anyone other than the Star Guardians, it would probably call most of the Star Nerds a bunch of misty-eyed babies before flying up to Zaya's shoulder for a wing bump. A great diss deserves a celebration. Blood type? B. Hobby? Judging people. Food? Raspberry chocolate cake.
John likes raspberry chocolate cake. Yeah.
Me too. Subject, criminal law. Bong bong. It's like, sorry, Zoe, you have to give Rakan back. You're breaking the law right now. What you're doing is illegal.
The law!
Criminal?
I have the books.
Then we got Zoe, a member of the ancient first group of Star Guardians. Zoe's heart desired not love, but chaos, twisting her newfound power into a malignant expression of cosmic madness. After numberless eons of hunting the first stars chosen, she has finally come to Valoran City, hoping to destroy the latest generation of Guardians as she has countless others. Magical medium? Ran. Appearances can be deceiving. Zoe's childlike air disguises a chaotic and destructive evil. Ran, similarly, can be confused for a colorful plushie brought to life.
Oh.
With a sparkling glimmer in its eye and a devious smile, it dreams of wreaking havoc across the galaxy.
Fuck 'em up.
Blood type? B. Hobby? Destroying Star Guardians.
Okay.
Food? Takoyaki. Subject? Chaos theory.
I wish, like, some of these hobbies, though, were something that fit, you know, with the idea that she likes to destroy Star Guardians. You know what I mean? She has, like, a different
What do you
hobby.
think would be like? What do you think would be
Blowing out
Whack-a-mole?
candles.
Pretty good.
Blowing out candles.
That's pretty good. Skeet shooting? I don't know. What do you want from me, man? I got nothing.
I wasn't demanding that we all have an answer for it. I was just saying.
Yeah, but you're both like expectantly like, okay, now you give
Now
a
your
good
turn.
answer.
Maybe like
Oh,
geometry
fucking-
so she can better aim her paddle stars.
That's better. That's a better one. Yeah.
And then finally, we got Nico. A member of Ari's original team of Star Guardians, Nico watched her teammates fall against Zoe's dark powers, going into hiding when she too was thought dead. Revealing herself to the newly assembled Star Guardians at the eve of their greatest battle, the wide-eyed adventurer has vowed that this time she won't run. And she's the only one that got a prestige skin for this one. Nico and the Star Guardians emerge from their battle forever changed, friendships reforged in the face of stunning victory and brutal loss. They will save their lost companion, perhaps not now, but one day, and they will do it together.
They will not do that. Maybe, like, while Zaya's
Maybe they
looking,
will.
they're secretly out there looking too, you know?
Sure.
You cover more ground if you spread out, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. If only they didn't meet up at one point in the comic.
Oh. And she was like, why'd you stop looking for my dead boyfriend?
That's shit to do, man. I got
Sorry, I
got
wanted
hobbies
boba.
and
Just tax season. What do you want from me? Magical medium, Toa. Toa may be slippery, but that won't stop Nico from trying to squeeze it as tight as she can. Toa doesn't mind, though it covets a simple life of hopping around, catching flies to the more adventurous works of star guarding. If only Nico could disguise herself as someone with less responsibility.
Aww.
Blood type O+. Hobby, hide and seek. Food, toasted crickets. Subject, anatomy.
Shouldn't her blood type be O negative, which is the universal donor?
Well, I can see that, but she's very positive, so she's Nico positive, right?
Ayo.
Fuck! You're right.
I feel like her blood type should be cold.
Eh.
I like
We
that.
put this lizard blood in you, and you're fucked. I'm sorry.
Hopefully she never needs blood. You're just gonna have to gut a bunch of lizards. Just poke a hole and squeeze it out into her.
That's how it works.
It's like a Capri Sun. Sorry. I like lizards. I don't want to do that to them. Sorry.
Thank you.
Anyway.
And then I've got one fun fact.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
So, if the player uses the following Star Guardian skins on the ally team, the full version of Scattered Stars will play as the game starts. Star Guardian Nico, Prestige Nico, Star Guardian Rakan, Zaya, or Zoe. Which I also know because I almost exclusively play Star Guardian Zoe and Rakan. So I get the music for both of them when it starts. Honestly,
cool.
and Nico too. I think that's my...
You do,
Man,
yeah.
I play a lot of this class of Star Guardians. Like,
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 of the 4.
I don't usually play Star Guardian Nico.
I'll say after reading these stories, like they'll probably be bumped up in my rotation. You know what I mean? If I got them. So
Man, I feel like even after this story, if you go back and rewatch the Everything Goes On, it'll hit different for you, Mark. I bet.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I watched it like multiple times because I was like, I know it dips further into season 4, but I know like half that video is Zaya anyway. And at the time, I didn't really know what was going on when I watched it. I just knew I liked the song and I liked Porter Robinson. So, yeah, we'll talk about it more when we do season 4. You can talk about all the feelings that we have when getting into it. You know,
All right.
You will.
okay, wow.
No, I'm just kidding.
You and I, they're two romantic fellas over here talking about sad songs.
I'm not a brick wall. I have feelings.
You're such a Zaya.
Right?
Not really. Who would I be?
No, you would be Zaya. I don't know how to tell you this.
I don't think that's true. I think I'm delightful.
Zaya's delightful.
Damn.
No, I'm very funny.
Zaya's funny too.
No, Zaya doesn't say anything funny.
She has jokes.
No. No.
You don't even know Zaya.
Okay, well, you're definitely Rakan the way you're simping for her right now.
Yeah.
It's called love.
I think I'm more than
Right.
Nico, Just so cute.
Just so positive all the time.
positive all the time.
Only positive.
I can't help the anxiety disorders. Just leave me alone.
We'll let the commenters decide. Commenters, cast us, put us. Who are
Yeah, cast us as the Star Guardians. And remember
we?
how
Yeah.
charming and funny I am.
No, fuck you up if you make me fucking Zaya.
No, I like Zaya. I
Heaven
just didn't
forbid
think I
you
was
be
that
Zaya
grumpy.
when I'm Rakan.
Maybe I'm more Akali. Like that
I
negative.
guess we'll have to see.
You know?
To be fair, I don't quite
That's
know.
true. I don't know what becomes of Akali.
We'll find out next time on
Yeah.
Star Guardian Season 4.
Oh my god. Well, any final thoughts on season 3?
I know it was just one story, but it's a big one. I don't know.
It's a long, I like the story overall. It's definitely Season 3 is just a prolonged setup for Season 4.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that, right? It's got that metal book syndrome a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I think, like we said, another story would probably have been real good. Really flesh out more of the interactions between these two teams. You could give some more space to like Poppy. Most of them really are really kind of just relegated to they show up every now and then to do something, and it's like I do like the big everybody together having the big climactic battle, but having one more thing of them doing something else, some in between piece, might have been good or better.
I agree. And setting up Akali and Kaisa elsewhere, and then still keeping them in the story, but having the setup somewhere else, I think would have been good. Especially
Well, if you had more
if one of them had a hint about Star Guardians or knew about them in some way. I kind of was imagining that, like, they admired the Star Guardians. I don't think I realized they didn't know they existed, like, until I read it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that was Star Guardians Season 3. Thank you so much for listening. We have a Twitch, twitch.tv/Loreheads. John streams on Saturday evenings there. He does TFT and ARAMs with viewers. And then he also plays some random indie games and whatnot. You could see him there on Saturday evenings, EST.
Yeah.
Not this Saturday again, unfortunately. Sundays. That happens Sundays sometimes, although this is going to be
It's been a busy
after.
month for Saturdays.
It's been a weirdly busy month for Saturdays. Although 2 in a row we're hiking, but
Yeah.
yeah. We have a YouTube. If you can't catch John's streams, he puts a lot of VODs up there. And you can see our beautiful faces as well on the YouTube, because we record the videos of these. John's smiling so lovely now.
It's gonna bite you.
A lot of teeth.
Doing his
That's how
O
you-
face.
that's how you know it's a good smile. How much
you
teeth do you want?
Every single one. I should be able to count those teeth, baby.
I need to see 32. If it ain't, oh man,
Oh no. Missing one.
it's fine. So am I. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah? Teeth, huh? What are you gonna do? Sometimes you gotta rip them out of your
Fuck 'em.
face. Oh, that too. We also have a Discord. You want to find some people to chat with, play League with, or anything like that? Talk about Star Guardians? You can join the Discord. Discord.
Join the Discord.
Just join Discord.
Tweety.
Also my Patreon. It's $5 a month for the bonus content. We just did a review of
Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter. It was great. It wasn't, but we talked about it in a really fun way.
We were great.
We were great.
Yeah, it was great to talk about
It
and
was
listen
really
to even
good.
more.
I'm sure. Yeah. I edited it, actually. It was great. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
But a very special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, Mr. Dead and King of Hearts. If you were corrupted by Zoe, I would also sacrifice myself and take the corruption into me, with the assumption that you would then come find me and rescue me
Obviously.
down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would help. Let
Yeah.
that be established that we would help and be there. Even if
They
we
would
meet up
at
in the
least
comments
say that
later.
they were going to help.
I'll say I'm going to help.
Okay, that I can, yeah. Yeah.
Well, please be sure to join us next week. We are going to be doing our predictions for the second half of 2025, our lore predictions. And I kind of want some people's input on this, by the way. If you're listening to this on YouTube, want to leave a comment or go in the Discord, 2025 lore predictions. I want to see it.
This is something that we'll do at the beginning of the year
Of
next time.
future years.
We just
We forgot.
We forgot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I forgot. We just didn't. I mean, I don't know about y'all. I assume we just hadn't thought of it to do it, or did we forget?
I mean,
Maybe
it was
I
a
forgot that we forgot.
recommendation in chat, and then I think probably a few months after the recommendation, we
Forgot. I forget
That's
everything.
just the speed
You know how
we
it is.
move at, man. You know, it's like,
Instant.
you know how it is. There's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to this podcast. All this red tape, like I gotta get it signed in triplicate, right? Like, don't even worry about it.
Anyway, bye.
All right, I'm excited.
Oh, well, that was very Zaya of me. Bye, guys. I love you.